My name is Evan. I'm 31. And until a few months ago, I thought my relationship with my older sister Mia was just strained, not irreparably broken. We were never close growing up. She was always the golden child, charming, athletic, and getting straight A's without trying. I was quieter, more introverted. The computer kid who preferred tinkering with code over playing backyard football. Still, I figured we would grow out of the sibling rivalry, maybe even become real friends once we both hit adulthood. That never happened. If anything, it got worse. Mia graduated with honors, landed a cushy finance job thanks to one of Dad's friends, and started dating Amelia, her college sweetheart, who came from a family of surgeons and CEOs. I took a different path. I dropped out of college to build my own tech startup with 2 high school friends. We bootstrapped for years, lived on ramen and late nights, and got laughed at more times than I could count. But last year, our company finally hit. We signed a major licensing deal with a healthcare tech firm. Scaled fast and suddenly, I wasn't that weird IT dropout anymore. I became a CEO. We're not a household name, but in our industry, people know who we are. Still, I never flaunted it, especially not to Mia. I figured she didn't care or worse, would just find a way to downplay it like always. A few weeks ago, Mia texted me about her housewarming, or rather she didn't invite me. She said it was going to be a classy event for Amelia's family and friends, people who are established professionals, and that it might be awkward having me there because, in her words, I know you're still figuring your stuff out. I stared at the message for a long time. No hope you're doing well. No maybe next time. Just a blunt little rejection from my own sister. Like I was some embarrassing side character in her success story. What she didn't know, what no one in our family really knew, is that one of Amelia's uncles is the COO of the company we signed the deal with. I'd met him over Zoom during contract negotiations. Nice guy, sharp, very by the book. We didn't talk much outside of business, and I never connected the dots between him and Amelia until now. But once I saw her full name again in Mia's text, it clicked. I could have said something, could have used it as leverage or a jab. Instead, I just replied, got it. Hope the party goes well. And I meant it, kind of. I didn't want to go anymore. But then my parents started poking. My mom called and said, it's just a formality, Evan. Don't take it personally. As if it was normal for your own sister to exclude you from her life. My dad chimed in too, saying Mia was just trying to impress Amelia's family and maybe I'd understand when I finally settled down. That one stung. I've always been the single one, sure, but not by choice. I've just been busy building something real, something they never took the time to ask about. I was going to let it go, really, I was. But then, 2 nights before the party, I got a call from my cousin Derek. He said, hey man, are you really not coming to the housewarming? I told him the truth that Mia didn't want me there. Derek hesitated, then added, that's messed up. Especially with the stuff they've been saying. I asked what he meant and he reluctantly shared that at a recent dinner, Mia and Amelia joked that I was the black sheep who thought he could run a company from a garage. Her brother laughed, saying, some people just never grow up. My mom laughed too, apparently. My own mom, that was it. Something in me cracked. Not out of rage, more like disappointment, a hollow kind that sits deep. I wasn't going to crash the party, but I decided I'd show up for 5 minutes, give them a polite hello, and leave just to remind them I existed. So I put on a clean shirt, a dark blue button-down that I'd worn to my last investor meeting, debated for 20 minutes whether this was really a good idea, then finally drove across town with a knot in my stomach that grew tighter with each mile. The late afternoon sun cast long shadows across the road as I navigated through neighborhoods that grew progressively more manicured. Each turn brought me closer to a confrontation I wasn't sure I was ready for, but something inside me wouldn't let me turn back. I pulled up to the curb, a respectable distance from their driveway already crowded with luxury cars sporting dealership plates so new you could practically smell the financing. I sat there for a moment, engine off, watching people mill about inside through the large bay windows. Everyone looked so comfortable, so at ease in a world I'd been deemed unworthy to enter. With a deep breath, I stepped out of my car, straightened my shirt, and walked with deliberate confidence toward the house I'd only seen in Instagram posts. I arrived right when the party was already in full swing, laughter and conversation spilling out onto the perfectly landscaped lawn. Their new house was exactly what I expected. Modern, spotless, magazine perfect. Music playing, glasses clinking, everyone dressed like they just stepped out of a real estate commercial. I walked in through the side gate and Mia's face fell the moment she saw me, color draining as though she'd seen a ghost at her perfect party. Her fingers tightened around her wine glass, knuckles whitening before she regained her composure. The transformation was subtle. I might have missed it if I hadn't been watching for it, if I hadn't spent a lifetime studying her reactions to me. She came over, navigating through clusters of guests with practiced grace, fake smile plastered on so convincingly that only someone who shared her DNA could see through it. Evan. Oh, hey. I didn't think you were coming, she said, her voice a careful balance of surprise and forced warmth. Her eyes darted nervously around us, checking who might be watching, calculating the potential damage to her carefully constructed image. I smiled back, matching her pretense with my own. Just thought I'd stop by. Say hi. The words were simple, but we both knew what they really meant. I wasn't going to stay quiet in the shadows anymore. Before she could respond, Amelia showed up behind her. Her eyes scanned me like I was a waiter who'd wandered into the wrong backyard. Oh, hi. She said flatly. Nice of you to show up. The next 10 minutes were a masterclass in polite disdain. I got introduced to 2 of Amelia's aunts as Mia's brother. He's in tech or something. And then quickly shuffled aside so they could talk to a plastic surgeon from Boston. People kept asking me where I worked. And when I explained that I ran my own company, someone quipped, oh, like a startup. And chuckled like I'd said I sold candles on Etsy. Even Mia's tone was different. Like, she was embarrassed for me. At one point, someone handed me a plate and pushed me toward the food table. I stood there holding it while a cluster of Amelia's cousins stood a few feet away clearly whispering. One of them laughed and said, just loud enough. He looks like he walked here. Another added, isn't he the one who never finished college? I didn't react. I just sipped my drink and reminded myself I wasn't here to prove anything. And then came the video call. Apparently, Amelia's dad couldn't attend in person, so they were FaceTiming him in to do a virtual toast. Mia connected the call, put it on speaker, and propped the phone up on a little stand in the middle of the patio table. Everyone gathered around holding up their drinks. Her dad appeared on the screen, gray hair, confident smile, clearly in good spirits. To Mia and Amelia, he said, "You two are building something great. I'm so proud of you both." There were cheers and laughter. Then as the screen panned to capture more of the party, his face changed. He squinted, leaned in, then pointed directly at the phone's camera. "Hold on, is that Evan?" "Evan Carter." The crowd quieted. I nodded slowly. "Yeah, it's me." A beat passed, then he let out a surprised laugh. "What are you doing there? Wait, why didn't anyone tell me you two were siblings?" The silence grew thick. Amelia looked like she'd swallowed a lemon. Mia froze. Her dad continued smiling big now. "This man right here, Evan, he's the reason I have my job. His company is why my entire division exists. I tell everyone at work about him. Evan, buddy, you changed the game." You could hear a pin drop. He went on for a minute, talking about how revolutionary the software was. How the rollout saved their department. How people at the company still talk about our meetings. I nodded politely, thanked him, and finally gently interrupted. "I appreciate that really, but I should get going." I set down my drink, handed my untouched plate to the stunned cousin nearest me, and walked out the gate without another word. I didn't need to hear the rest. Let them process it however they wanted. I drove home with a windows jury, the night air cool against my face. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like I had to prove anything. The next morning, my phone lit up with more notifications than I'd seen in months. Missed calls, voicemails, texts from numbers I didn't even have saved. I didn't answer any of them. I just let them stack up like unread receipts from a night I never planned to remember. The first one I opened though was from my mom. It simply said, "Call me now." That was it. No. "Are you okay?" "No. We're sorry." Just an order, like always. I ignored it. Then came one from Mia. "You could have said something." And then a follow-up. "Do you have any idea how that made us look?" How that made them look. That one actually made me laugh out loud. For years, I lived in the shadow of Mia curated image. The successful older sister, the future family matriarch, the golden girl. And now, intent on a phone screen, that illusion cracked not because I did anything, but because the truth slipped out and there was no dressing it back up in a blazer and tie. By noon, Amelia texted. I didn't even know she had my number. Her message was longer. "Hey, Evan. I'm really sorry about last night. I didn't realize how accomplished you were. I think some people at the party might have misunderstood your situation. You should have said something sooner. I'd love to talk, maybe grab coffee and clear the air." Clear the air like I'd walked in and farted instead of them spending the whole evening pretending I was beneath them. That night, I went out for a solo dinner at my favorite little Korean barbecue place. I'd been there dozens of times alone, mostly just to escape. The owner knew me by name, brought me my usual without even asking. As I sat there flipping meat on the grill, watching the sizzle rise, I realized something. I wasn't angry, not in the way I used to be. Not even hurt anymore, not exactly. I just felt done. A profound, bone-deep exhaustion had replaced the sting of rejection I'd carried for years. It was almost peaceful, this realization that I no longer needed to prove my worth to people who had decided my value long ago. As I sat there amid the comforting bustle of the restaurant, watching the steam rise from the grill, I found myself thinking about all the family gatherings where I tried so hard to matter, the awkward holiday dinners where my updates were met with polite nods before the conversation quickly shifted to Mia's latest achievement, the birthdays where my gifts were appreciated but somehow never quite right, the countless times I'd edited myself smaller to fit into the box they'd built for me. The owner approached with a bottle of soju. "On the house," he said with a smile that crinkled the corners of his eyes. "You look like you need it tonight." I thanked him, touched by this simple kindness from someone who barely knew me but had somehow seen me more clearly than my own family ever had. As he walked away, I made a decision. I picked up my phone and began typing, each word a brick in a wall I should have built years ago. Done being the quiet one, the afterthought, the lesser sibling who got humored at holidays and excluded from real family moments. But being done didn't mean disappearing. So the next day, I did what I should have done years ago. I sent out one text to the family group chat. "Hey. Just so there's no confusion, yes. I run a company. Yes, we're doing well. No. I don't owe anyone an explanation for how I got here. But since my presence at family events seems to be an occasional inconvenience, I'll make it easy. I'm stepping away from all gatherings for a while. I've spent years being spoken about like I wasn't in the room, but I am in the room now. And I've built the building, so feel free to carry on just without me." Delivered. Read. Silence. An hour later, my cousin Derek replied, "Respect." Then, my aunt, Dad's sister, texted me privately. She said she'd watched what happened at the party over Amelia's dad's FaceTime. "The look on your mom's face," she wrote. She turned ghost white, like she'd seen a spirit crawl out of her own reflection. But the real kicker came 2 days later. I got an email from Amelia's father, a professional one, sent to my work address. He wrote, "Evan, I owe you an apology. I had no idea you were part of that family. No one mentioned it. I can't believe the way they treated you. I always say we should never judge someone by their resume, but by their results. And you've built something remarkable. If you're ever open to collaborating again on a bigger scale this time, I'd love to schedule a meeting. No pressure, just admiration." I stared at the screen for a long time, not because I needed validation, but because somehow, that one sentence from someone outside the family. "I can't believe the way they treated you" hit deeper than any apology from my family ever could. And then came the fallout. My mom showed up at my apartment, not called, not texted, just knocked. When I opened the door, she was standing there in her nicest coat holding a grocery bag like it was some kind of peace offering. "I brought your favorite, those sesame cookies," she said with a half smile. I didn't invite her in. She stood awkwardly in the hallway rocking on her heels. "Evan, we didn't know. You never told us how big your company got." I looked her in the eyes and said, "Would it have mattered?" She blinked. Of course, it would have. I nodded slowly. Exactly. She opened her mouth to respond then shut it again. Her eyes shifted. Mia feels awful. She didn't mean to exclude you. I read the message. It wasn't a misunderstanding. She said it clearly. There was a pause, a long one. Then she whispered, it's just hard sometimes feeling like I don't know how to connect with you. That one stung not because it was cruel but because it was cowardly. You could have tried, I said quietly instead of laughing when they mocked me, instead of pretending I wasn't there. She looked down. I could see her lip quiver but I didn't move. I didn't open the door wider. I didn't hug her. I tired but calm. I'm not cutting you out, I said finally. But I'm not playing this game anymore. I'm not chasing approval. If you want me in your life, it has to be as an equal, not the punchline. She nodded blinking fast. I understand. I don't think she did, but she left the cookies anyway. And for the first time in years, I didn't eat them. The next family event was a month later, Dad's birthday dinner. I didn't go. Mia sent a group selfie from the table. Everyone smiling, plates full, candles glowing. I ignored it. A few minutes later, she sent a private message. Dad misses you. Come by this weekend. I haven't replied yet because for once, they're reaching out and I'm deciding whether they've earned a reply. I ended up going, not out of guilt, not because I missed them. I went because I wanted to look my father in the eye one last time and see if he even saw me. It was a quiet Sunday afternoon. No birthday balloons. No extended family. Just my parents, Mia and Amelia. I wore a navy blazer. Not because I wanted to impress them, but because I knew they'd expect me to come casual as if my life was still some thrown together project. It was petty, sure, but I wanted them to feel the difference before I even spoke. Mia opened the door. Hey, she said, trying to sound casual like we hadn't gone radio silent for weeks. Glad you made it. Sure, I replied flatly brushing past her. Inside Dad was sitting in his usual chair by the fireplace sipping something dark from a heavy tumbler. He looked older than I remembered, tired as if some of the shine he used to wear like armor had dulled. He stood when he saw me. Evan, he said, nodding slowly. Good to see you, son. I nodded back. You too. Amelia gave a small wave from the kitchen where she was plating a store-bought cake. No one spoke about the party. No one brought up what had happened. It was like we were pretending nothing had changed, only everything had. We sat around the dining table and the meal was quiet, too quiet. The kind of silence that isn't peaceful, just loaded. Every clink of a fork sounded louder than it should. Every breath felt like it came with strings attached. It was only when the plates were cleared and the cake was sliced that Dad finally spoke up. I heard you've done well for yourself. I looked at him. You could have asked sooner. He nodded slowly. Maybe I should have. I guess I didn't realize. He trailed off. I waited. I always thought Mia had the clearer path, he said finally. She did things the way I understood. College, job, stability. You went your own way and I didn't know what to do with that. So you ignored it, I said, voice steady. And me. He looked me in the eye, and for a moment I thought I saw something real. Regret maybe, or at least recognition. You're right, he said. And that should have been enough. That could have been enough. But Mia couldn't leave it alone. You know, she said, leaning back in her chair. I still think you overreacted about the party. It wasn't personal. Amelia's family just didn't know who you were. I blinked slowly. Because you made sure they didn't? She shrugged. I didn't think it mattered. No. You didn't think I mattered. Mia leaned forward suddenly defensive. Evan, come on. It's not like I lied about you. I just didn't make a big deal out of it. You made a point to keep me small, I snapped. You've always done that. You act like I'm some embarrassing experiment that worked out by accident. Amelia cut in, her voice quiet but sharp. Let's not turn this into a fight. I turned to her. You mocked me to your family behind my back. She froze. I heard what you said about how I never made it, about how I was a dropout, about how you were too accomplished to be around me. Her face flushed. I didn't mean it like that. But you said it and Mia let you. Everyone was still. I turned back to Dad. You want to know why I stopped coming around? Why I'm not at birthdays or holidays? It's not because I'm busy. It's not because I'm bitter. It's because you all made it clear I was only welcome if I played my part. The underachiever, the weird one, the one you laugh about after dinner when you think I'm not listening. No one moved. I stood up. You wanted me here. Now I've come. But this is the last time. I walk into a room just to make you feel better about ignoring me. And I reached into my coat pocket and set down a white envelope. What's this? Dad asked. My company's annual gala is next month. We're hosting it at the Skyline Towers downtown. That's a VIP invite. You can come, see for yourself what I've built, or you can throw it out and go back to pretending. I turned, walked to the door, and no one said a word as I stepped out into the crisp air. The envelope remained on the table behind me, white and stark against the dark wood, a bridge they could choose to cross or burn. I didn't look back as I pulled the door closed, the soft click, a period at the end of a chapter I'd been trying to end for years. The walk to my car was longer than I remembered, each step carrying me further from expectations I could never meet and closer to a life entirely my own. An unexpected lightness filled my chest as I drove away, not the weightlessness of joy but the unburdening that comes with finally setting down something heavy you've carried too long. That night, I worked late in my office, losing myself in code and conference calls with our team in Singapore. The familiar rhythm of problem solving and creation had always been my refuge, the place where I knew my value without question. Around midnight, my phone buzzed with a text from my cousin Derek. You good? Just 2 words, but they contained more genuine concern than anything my immediate family had offered in years. Better than good, I replied, and I meant it. I finally exhaled, not out of relief, but closure. The next day, my assistant called. You're not going to believe this, she said. We just got a confirmation RSVP from who? Your father +3. The night of the gala arrived like a storm front. Quiet anticipation giving way to flashes of drama and long overdue reckoning. I arrived early dressed in a tailored charcoal suit, subtle but sharp. No name tag, no introduction needed. This was my world. The event space at Skyline Towers was all polished glass and sweeping views of the city with soft jazz playing over warm lighting. Investors, partners, and industry leaders mingled with glasses of champagne and practiced ease. I was in my element. I'd instructed the staff to treat my family like any other guests. No special fanfare, no extra attention. Let the setting speak for itself. When they arrived, the room changed. I saw them enter from across the hall. My father in a stiff black suit, my mother clinging to his arm, Mia and Amelia just behind. Both dressed like they were attending an award show. They stood awkwardly near the registration desk until one of the assistants checked their names and gave them their access badges. VIP, same as the rest. I watched them look around trying to make sense of it all. Then the signage caught their eye. My name, Evan Carter, printed large across the digital displays above the stage. And beneath it, founder and CEO of Nexus Systems. Amelia's jaw actually dropped. They didn't realize, not fully, that this was me. That I wasn't just doing okay. That I owned the space they were standing in. That the servers brushing past them with silver trays of champagne flutes nodded respectfully in my direction as they passed. That the musicians playing live were performing a piece I'd specifically requested. That the curated lighting bathing everything in an amber glow had been designed to my specifications. That the software demonstrations in the breakout booths were showcasing innovations years ahead of market competition. All of it was my creation, the physical manifestation of a vision only I'd been able to see when everyone else was telling me to give up and get a real job. I watched my father's eyes widen as he took in the scale of it all, saw my mother's hand tighten on his arm as realization dawned. Mia seemed to physically shrink, her shoulders curving inward slightly, no longer the tall, confident figure who had always made me feel small. For a moment, I felt a pang of sympathy. I recognized the look on her face, the disorientation of discovering that the world is not what you thought it was, that the narrative you've built your identity around has fatal flaws. I'd felt that way many times at family gatherings, always the odd one out, never quite measuring up. But tonight, the roles were reversed, and the irony wasn't lost on me. I let them wander through my world, watching from a distance as they took it all in. They saw me shaking hands with industry leaders, laughing easily with colleagues who respected me, accepting congratulations on our newest product launch that had made headlines in the tech world last week. They watched a former Stanford professor approach me and say, "Your keynote last month was one of the best I've ever seen." They saw me smile and say, "Thanks. Still remember your class on scalability." And then the moment came. I took the stage. The room dimmed and a hush fell. I didn't look at my family as I spoke, but I knew exactly where they stood. Near the back, blending into the shadows, trying to make themselves small. 5 years ago, I began. This company was 3 people in a 1-bedroom apartment, eating instant noodles and fighting to make rent. No investors, no safety net, just an idea and the will to make it real. I let that land. There were people who told us it wouldn't work, that we were wasting time, that we weren't cut out for success. But I've learned something. What others call unrealistic is often just unfamiliar to them. It doesn't mean you're wrong. It means they can't see what you see. I paused, looked out at the sea of faces, and for the first time, I did look at my family. They were still. And tonight, I continued. I want to say thank you to the people who did believe, to those who backed us when we were nothing because now we are something. The crowd erupted in applause. Cameras flashed. People stood. I stepped off stage to a line of well-wishers, friends, and admirers. My family didn't approach it first. They lingered unsure. Eventually, Dad made the first move. He walked up slowly looking older than I'd ever seen him. "Evan," he said, voice low. That was impressive. "Thanks," I replied. I didn't smile. "I didn't realize," he said, glancing around the room. "What you've built." "I know," I said simply. He swallowed. "I'm sorry." Behind him Mom blinked rapidly. "We didn't mean to make you feel like you didn't matter," she said, voice tight. "But you did," I said, "for years." She flinched. Mia fetched forward. "I was wrong," she said, "about everything. I was just jealous, I guess. I did things the right way and still, I'm not where you are." I raised an eyebrow. "You're not supposed to be where I am. This was never a race." She looked down. "I made it one." Amelia said nothing. Just stood beside her frozen. I nodded slowly. "Here's the thing. I'm not angry anymore. But I'm not going to pretend none of it happened." "So what now?" Mom asked quietly. "Do we just go our separate ways?" I looked at her. "I'm open to starting over, but this time on equal footing. No jabs, no backhanded compliments, no being the lesser son. I'm done playing that role." They nodded, even Mia. We didn't hug, not that night, but they left early. Quieter than when they came, and I watched them walk out the glass doors into the cold night. No dramatic blow up, no shouting, just a slow realization that the person they thought would never amount to anything had quietly become someone they'd never understand. A few weeks later, my mom texted, "Just a photo." It was the old family photo from 10 years ago. The one where Mia stood center and I was shoved to the side barely in frame. Only this time, she cropped it differently. Centered me, captioned, "Thinking about how proud I am." It wasn't everything, but it was something. And that's how it ends. I didn't get revenge in the way people expect. I didn't ruin anyone. I didn't scream. I didn't beg. I just succeeded loudly enough that silence wasn't an option anymore. And sometimes, that's the best revenge there is.